Prospect House Media.
And now, prepare yourself for the only weekly podcast you won't want to miss. Welcome to the Ameritocracy Show with Troy Edgar, live from our studios in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C.
Hey everybody, I am Troy Edgar and welcome to the Ameritocracy Show. Thank you for tuning in and checking it out. It is greatly appreciated. This podcast examines the conditions for personal and economic growth and opportunity across America. This week, I meet with legendary Southern California bar owner turned philanthropist Kenny Brandyberry to discuss building lasting relationships, knowing your customer, respect, and how to turn everything you touch to gold. He closes by talking about the responsibility of success, which is caring for people and giving back. Kenny Brandyberry is a U.S. Air Force veteran who was raised in Bell, California, and stationed in England in the 1950s during the Korean War. After his service, Kenny returned to Southern California until he eventually opened his first bar in 1964 called the Red Rooster. For the next 50 years, he opened up many bars and nightclubs in LA and Orange County, with his most infamous being the Starting Gate, across from the Los Alamitos racetrack, where he had tremendous success and some very famous patrons. Now retired, Kenny continues his dedication to the community and his most important focus on supporting the CASA Youth Shelter. CASA is a nonprofit organization that provides a safe place for runaway, abused, and homeless youth, and that he's been involved with them for over 25 years. Kenny and I became best friends in 2006 at CASA when we worked together on the shelter's board of directors. Kenny has a larger-than-life personality and has been called the hero of the CASA Youth Shelter. He has been responsible for donating and raising millions of dollars, which has helped over 13,000 kids find safety and support. Kenny is truly a pillar of the community, a blessing and an inspiration to all of us. He has one of the warmest hearts you will ever encounter. If you ever thought about opening a bar or nightclub, this is a must-hear episode. I hope you enjoy. All righty, Kenny, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So Kenny Brandyberry, you've just, you've been doing so much stuff in the community. You've given back so much, and you've just got the greatest story of how to be an efficient and effective business person. Today, we've come back here to the American Legion post 716 in Los Alamitos, the place where you and I usually try to break bread when I'm in town and get together. And I'm just so appreciative of you being on the show. So again, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Hey, Kenny, you've got all these great achievements. A lot of people, North Orange County, Long Beach, LA County, a lot of people are familiar with your story, but our audience base is national. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your background, maybe, in the 60s when you first started getting into the bar and the nightclub business, and then, maybe take us up to, your current philanthropy and the work that you do in the community. But just from a business perspective, if you could just lay that out, that would be great.
Well, sure. When I started out in business, I started out in 1964 when I had my first bar. It was a beer bar, and the highest thing we had in there was $1. Back in those days, a glass of beer was 25 cents, 40 cents a bottle, and $1 a pitcher. It was unreal back in those days. And back in those days, too, is when I started with the Little League. I had people come in. Back in those days, it was hard to get sponsors. But we would name it Ken's because you could not use a bar name for Little League. So on those days, they had 8 teams that they needed sponsor. I was the first one. They came to me. And that's when I asked them, how many teams you got? And they said, they got 8. So what I told them, I'll take all 8 teams. And they were asking me, why? Why would you take 8 teams? Because I wanted to have a winner. I knew I would at least finish first, second, third.
There you go.
And so I sponsored the whole 8 teams back in those days. And after that, I had a place called the Red Rooster. Then after that, I graduated into the cocktail business. And I wound up at a place at the end of it called the Starting Gate Restaurant in Los Alamitos. Wow. And that was such a great club that was held like 350 people. Very, very busy. Back in those days, you did things for customers, is what you did. You really didn't do it for yourself. I didn't do it for myself. I want to make people happy. I've been around people all my life. I just want to make people happy. And what we did in those days, as soon as you walked through that door, I was there to greet you. I would get there at 4:30 in the morning. I might leave at 11 o'clock at night. That's every day, 7 days a week. And I opened up at 6 because we were right across the street from the Los Alamitos racetrack. And the jockeys and trainers, they're all working at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, taking care of the horses. Then they would come to my place. As soon as they got done, they needed a place to have breakfast and enjoy a cocktail and have fun.
Wow. So the Starting Gate, just, for a lot of the folks that were out there, even in my generation, that place was one of the most popular places around. I think you had told me too, just in liquor distribution, it was one of the biggest in Orange County, including some of the big establishments, right?
Sure, it sure was. We were in the top 10 of selling liquor, counting Angel Stadium, counting all your big places. We were in the top 10.
Wow. Yeah, and then within the Starting Gate, like I said, being across from the horse track, you'd also get a lot of folks coming in that wouldn't necessarily live in the community. It was a place. I do a lot of work in the Fortune 500, and people that were executives in LA and Orange County said, "Oh, I might remember the Starting Gate. Back in the day, I used to go there too, to go to the racetrack, and that just a lot of stuff that went on in there, exciting, and you really built that business, and you had built that business, and then you got it to a certain level, and then you sold it, and then you bought it back, right?"
Yes, well, I didn't buy it back. I took it back. You don't buy them back. You take them back. If you take them back, the guy owes you money, and he don't have the money to pay you. So I never buy them back. I take them back.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And, something about the stories that everybody talks about with you, Kenny, is your ability to build relationships with people. You're an operator that absolutely focused on, like you said, taking care of the people and the relationships. And, you and I have done a lot of work in charity together, especially with the Casa Youth Shelter and your kids there. Talk about how, building those types of relationships have been almost lifetime activities that follow you long after you're at different establishments. These people follow you as friends for years to come.
Yeah, that's a true story, but it's just like when I had the Starting Gate. We did so much business. I was very good at remembering names, which is very great in this type of business. But I was always there when you walked through that door. I was there to shake your hand, welcome you, hi, how are you, and remember you by name. And that was a big, big plus. And so when people would come into the place, "Hi, Joe, how you doing, pal?" Good. They'd walk in. Even I didn't care if you bought one drink or you bought 100 drinks. You were treated exactly the same in my place.
Yeah. I was talking with Donna and you, and we were talking about that. And it's also kind of by that personalized business, people, there's something, you don't see it today at all, but people would walk in and hadn't been in your place for a year or two, and you'd remember their name. And the guy would, you told me the story, they'd look at their friends. What would they say?
Oh, yeah, but I mean, they'd come in there and say, well, like people would bring him in and say they know the owner at the Starting Gate. And they're, well, you don't know. I'm talking about somebody that don't have any money and everything. Their buddies say, oh, you don't know the owners. Yes, I do. And he'd walk in, "Hey, Pete, how you doing, Pete?" He'd look at his buddy Joe. "I told you I knew the owner. I told you I knew the owner." Then they would introduce me to Pete, would introduce me to Joe, and then they just had a great time because they realized that whatever you spent didn't mean that much to me. What meant to me is that you're a real person that I appreciated very much.
And Kenny, with your work ethic, a lot of people say how successful you are, and and I'm always amazed when you talk about, well, yeah, you can be successful if you put in the effort. Could you talk about that? You mentioned just a moment ago that you put in a lot of hours, but people just think everything you touch turns to gold.
Well, that's a true story. It's just I've had customers that sitting there and come to me and say, Kenny, everything you touch turns to gold. I say, you're exactly right. It does turn to gold. But what about the 15, 18 hours a day I put in to make it turn to gold? It's usually somebody sitting on the other side that don't work or anything like that and don't realize what's really going on in life, which they should. The harder, I've always been a person to realize the harder I work, the better I am going to be. And people have got to understand you're just not going to get things handed to you, which is so sad nowadays because people just want it handed to you. They don't want to work for nothing. That's the trouble with a lot of businesses right now.
Yeah, and Kenny, I'll be truthful. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is that, I'm in the corporate world and I see that a lot too. Where people think, hey, I should just be at this level. I should just do these types of things, and I think it takes a lot of hard work, but it also takes having a good business sense. And you and I, a few times I've talked to you like, hey, Kenny, when this is all over, I wouldn't mind starting a nightclub or a bar just to have something to go to. And you're like, Troy, don't do it. And I'm like, why is that? It's like, you have to be there. It's part of the success of the establishment.
Well, that's a true story. There's so many people that want to open up a bar, but they feel they don't have to be there. You can't run your bar from home. Number one, when people walk through that door, they want to see the owner. They want to let the owner know they're there to spend money with them. And so you got to be there to greet him, and that owner appreciates you being there. That is very, very important in this business, or probably most anytime you deal with public. It's important in any business. You have to be there. You can't do it from home.
So, Kenny, my commitment to you coming on the show is I wouldn't talk about philanthropy, but I'm going to talk about customer promotions. But you've always been the master of branding. And, just recently, you bought a police dog for the city. I wanted you to tell that story, but I also, your slogan that you got up there and you made the point to the community, of this vibrant man. What was your, 84 and what?
Oh, I'm 84 and rocking and not stopping. That's the whole secret. And not stopping. I'm going to keep rocking, not stopping.
There you go. And with your promotions, like it never just stopped with taglines. You gave me a couple examples of different ways that you really kind of honed in on what the customers wanted and how could you draw people in from competition. And, I loved your story that you talked about, like your breakfast that you would set up. I mean, you go into a bar now and no one has like there's not like a place you can go to get a breakfast. But talk about what you set up in the breakfast and the out of your mind.
Well, okay, what I set up really because nobody ever did it, I served breakfast. And the breakfast I served, you got 2 eggs, 2 pieces of bacon, 2 sausage, 1 piece of ham, toast or biscuits and gravy and potatoes for $2.99. And the whole thing, and I'd be packed in there and I'd run up and down the aisle. $2.99, am I out of my mind? $2.99, am I out of my mind? And the people would go crazy. You are out of your mind. Have a drink. Give everybody a drink. They just so appreciate because you never got this anywhere.
Right. Yeah, and then you kind of, just to kind of keep pushing it through the day, you also had a special at happy hour.
Oh my God, I had a great happy hour. I went from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. You came in there. I had my chef carving your roast beef sandwiches, ham sandwiches, turkey sandwiches. You had your salads, your different salads and everything. It didn't cost you anything. I did that Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 o'clock. Wow. Nobody did that. But it was just to show appreciation of them being in my place.
Yeah. And I know, people, when they get off work, it's nice to go into a place and get something to eat, especially if you're single and by yourself and I spend a lot of time on the East Coast. It would be nice to be able to just go in and kind of relax after a long day and see somebody that you're familiar with. The owner comes over, greets you, starts to be habit forming and starts to build a relationship for the long term.
Sure. What it really does, the customer appreciates because you're thinking of them. You're not just wanting their dollar and not giving them nothing back, which I never believed in doing. It's just like what I used to do at nighttime in there. At nighttime, I used to serve a 3-pound cheeseburger and fries for 60 cents from 10 o'clock at night to midnight. And I would be jammed. People would be in other bars. There'd be 10 or 12 at a time. They'd look at their watch. Let's get to the gate. Yeah. They're going to get their third pound cheeseburger and fries for 60 cents. And the people appreciate that so much. Of course, they spend money too.
Yeah.
And one guy walks out that one time. He said, "Hey, you know what this cheeseburger cost me? $50." He said. And I said to him, "That is the idea, my friend. But you had a good time, didn't you?" "Yeah, I had a good time." "Okay, but to show them people, you got to let people know you really appreciate the business. Nowadays they don't. You go into most places now, they act like they're doing you a favor to spend your money. Not that you're doing them a favor to spend the money. Right. They're doing you a favor to let you go. And nobody greets you. No, I mean, it's sad the way it is nowadays.
So, Kenny, like I said, your career of running the bars even through the year 2000, but 70s and 80s, it was an interesting time. You always tried to, just to kind of keep going on that theme of looking out for your customers and making sure things were good. You used to, I remember asking you, "Hey, Kenny, there's some bars in locally, and I was a mayor and on city council for 12 years, so I'd always get police reports, and this is long after your bar was done, and you would see fight here breaking up, you'd see some pretty stuff happen, and then I'm like, hey, did you have a lot of police issues and security issues, especially with 350 people? Talk about that and the culture that you kind of brought into that bar and what really your people got behind."
Well, the reason that we hardly had any fight, you might get a little misunderstanding, but we did. But number one, I couldn't, if it happened, my customers would see something that's happening. And we have so many people in the bar, I couldn't see it or anything. They would get up and say, "Hey, this is our place. We don't allow that in here." My customers stopped any fight that was going, and I didn't even realize there was a fight going on. Mm-hmm. But they realized and they stopped and let them know, "This is our place. We have a good time here. You want to have a good time? Fine. If you don't, then you got to leave." So that's why the police loved me. We didn't have no fights. Even though we had bar checks, police would come in through the bar checks. I loved them. We had a good time with them, but we didn't have, this was not a problem place. None of my places was a problem place. Number one, because I was there. The owner is there. You got to be there. When your owner is there, your customers are going to behave, and your help is going to take care of the customers when the owner's working hard himself.
Yeah. You also, it was kind of interesting a little bit. Even some of the women that I've talked to over the years, especially being in the community as long as I have, it's like you always made sure the women felt safe there.
Yep, I sure did. We guaranteed a lady she would never be bothered unless she wanted to be. We guaranteed it. We had more women coming into that bar. And the reason I wanted the women in, of course, the men are coming. Mm-hmm. But they respected the women, and the women had a great time. I had security outside. If the woman would wanted to walk to her car, my security guard would walk them to their car and the whole thing. And that another woman would tell another woman, "Go to this place." And once they want to come to my place and seen that, they would come, tell their friends, and we were very, very busy.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought was interesting is knowing your surroundings and your customer needs is talk a little bit about you'd get there super early in the morning, you'd go over to the horse track and you'd pick up the video races of the night before. Why would you do that?
Why I did that, I picked them up in the morning when I got there and when they got the videos, because all the trainers, when they got done training, they could come over and see what happened to their horse the night before. If something happened to it, how it was running, I'd have all the jockeys there to see it happen, and the trainers. I showed them every day. I went and picked up the tapes, paid for the tapes. It cost me money for the tapes, but I wanted to make sure the trainers could come in and all the jockeys, because when all the trainers and jockeys are hanging out in your bar, all your horse players are coming in your bar because they think they're going to get hot tips. Yep. They think no one is here. They know anything, and that's why I did that.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you kind of keep going with that, it's the business model that you had. You never just focus like, hey, I'm going to make money at the end of the day, or hey, I'll do a happy hour to show appreciation, I'll make money. A lot of times your business model, you had very smart promotions going through the day that by the time you got to the night, you were already at break even.
Exactly. My night shift, I broke even on my day shift.
Wow.
When I went into my night shift, everything was paid for. Rent's paid, everything is paid for when I go in there.
Wow.
Except electricity and that, and you haven't got that. But all my stuff was covered. And when a night shift, when you got all them people in there, works out real good.
Hey, Kenny, one of the things, now we've talked about kind of meet your customer where it's at. I just, one question on operations, something I thought was interesting is, you and I talk about, how you staffed your bars and, especially in the evenings, your bar was a high volume, you belong to the Steeler Nation. So you would have days where you almost had to have people reserved to come in there. But with that many people, you also needed to get that volume turning, and you really were selective on how you staffed the bar, male, female, how you got people out there and in full operation. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, how I staffed the bar, I would realize how many people come in. It's just like when they had day racing in there. Mm-hmm. Well, during the day racing, it brings a lot of people, so you got to staff your bar different. I used to have, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I used to have 2 bartenders and 3 girls on the floor.
Wow.
That take care of my business, because once they're all in there and you can't take care of them, you ruin it. They're going to say, well, how long? I got to wait an hour to get a drink. I got to do this. Well, that's not going to work. And that's where it comes down to service. Service is the name of the game. If you don't give service, you're not going to have a game.
Right.
And I demanded service from all my customers. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Even though I did it at the door, hi, how are you? Welcome. When I see them, the bartender better said, hi, how are you? Welcome.
Exactly.
And they get it, and thank you. Thank you is so important, to thank people for spending their money when they leave their bar.
Kenny, a big part of your success is you built the employee base is almost like your family, your extended family.
Exactly.
And can you talk a little bit about that?
And it's just like, and my employees never left. My employees, we were busy. They made good money, and they treated the people right. And that's what, and that's the way I felt about my employees. Mm-hmm. I mean, at Christmas time, the only day I never worked is on Christmas Day. That's the only day I ever closed my bar, because I didn't expect my help to work Christmas Day either. Right. The night before, we'd close at 6 o'clock Christmas Eve, and I'd have a big party for all of my help. Big steak and lobster dinners and the whole thing right there, and then I'd give out their little Christmas bonus. Well, my Christmas bonus ran between $17,000 and $20,000 a year. I gave to my employees for doing such a great job, and they were appreciated. They knew I appreciated them. That's why I didn't have a problem them stealing from me. I knew they wouldn't steal from me.
Right.
There's no way they're going to work hard. But of course I did too. When I hired a bartender, I always told them I have spotters. Mm-hmm. So if you think you're going to get away with something, you might get away with it well, but it's not going to happen long.
Not for long.
And I did have spotters, but the spotters would call me and let me know, because they would not even tell me who they were. So I wouldn't
be biased.
Or have them sitting at the bar and blow their coverage or something like that. I never even knew who they were. But I didn't have no problems.
So at the end of this, when you look now and you see the modern establishments, and you see people that are out there, trying to make it, it was funny, is after you finished, your last bar, you had so many connections with bars across Southern California based on your reputation, is that, you started an ATM business after that, being able to put ATMs in all of those places, because people just, I'm like, hey, can you sure put something in here?
Yes, that's how I started an ATM business. When I sold my bar, I had my own ATM in there, but this guy brought his own ATM. So I had it sit in my garage for 4 years. The guy comes up and he's opening up a place. Say, Kenny, you still got that ATM? I said, yeah. He says, put it in my place and see what it'll do. So I put it in this place, and I started thinking, well, I know so many people, and my reputation's gold, everybody. And if I walk into a bar and I don't know the owner, I know half his customers. So if I go say that really helped me getting into all these bars. I had 120 ATM machines in these bars all over.
Wow.
So, but they knew me. Oh, Brandyberry, the starting gate guy, put it in. Put it in. They knew my reputation, and they know what type of a person I am.
That's awesome. And from your perspective, though, of all the places out there now, you talk about the mindset that not everybody has this view the customer comes first, and they don't
True.
kind of tie in, and they don't take care of their employees per se. And I know you still have people that run and own bars, so that's not, we're not being specific to anybody, just in general. And and I, like I said, I'm on the road constantly here, LA, or DC, all over the US, and it's just, you just don't see that type of customer service anymore. And any thoughts at this point? Do you think we just passed a point in time and it's now just
Because
too
they don't
corporate?
care. People don't care, Troy. This is the sad thing about a lot of stuff. They don't care about each other no more. The world's crazy right now because they don't care. The respect is gone. Once you start losing respect for your people, or respect for this person, even if you're not in business, when you lose respect for them, it's all over. And this is what's happening with the world today. There is no respect in this world today. But why a bar owner or any owner of anything don't understand that there's something wrong? Because they're not a respectful person themselves. That is why. I've always learned respect. My mom taught me that when I was growing up, and I respected anything I've ever done. And that's why I think I was very successful.
Yeah. Well, Kenny, great insights. Anything at the end that you would, like I said, I'm so appreciative that you were doing this with me, and and providing your details through your background.
Sure.
Anything else that you would want to comment on, or have any other insights you'd want to share?
Well, I think what the greatest thing for me that I ever did too is when I was sharing it is when I joined the Casa Youth Shelter for the runaway and abused teens. The reason I did that because they need help, and I love helping people. The respect, and I've been on the board 36 years now, and I've given a lot. I'm always there for Casa or for any organization. If I can help them, I'm there. I'm there for them.
Hey, Kenny, the Casa story is kind of worth talking about a little bit, because you're at year 0 to 1 when you got on the Casa board back in the day. You actually had a reaction with Mildred, who helped formed it, and police chief and all of that.
Yeah, well, the chief of police, they recommended me to be on the board of Casa Youth Shelter. And that's when I got on the board of Casa Youth Shelter. A little lady named Mildred Jones, she lived in Rossmore, and at the age of 69, sold her home to open up a shelter. Wow. She's at 69, she's supposed to be heading for retirement. She was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. Great lady. She stood about 4'7", 4'8", little tiny thing. But I'll tell you, she's one of the greatest women that ever walked. When she died, it was it killed my heart when she died. It made me very, very sad, because she was a lady you never said no to. Mm-hmm. Whatever she wanted, we would go there. And what she'd do, she'd call me, Kenny, could you come and take me somewhere today? I said, sure. She loved my car. She wanted to go in my car. So I'd pick her up. It might be only 5 minutes where we're supposed to go from where we're going. It'd take 2 hours to get there. Kenny, can you go down this street? Honk your horn. She'd be waved to everybody, waved to everybody. She just loved my car and everything. But she was a great lady, and that made me really love Casa Youth Shelter too, is the way she took care and started out with the little 6-room house with the 6 bedrooms, and that's how we started out with Casa Youth Shelter.
Yeah, Kenny, before I was even on the city council, raising my kids, doing soccer stuff and just doing my part in the community by like what every parent tries to do when you're in the middle of raising your kids. And
Sure.
I would always see, these big, they would always have stuff in the papers here in Orange County talking about parties in your backyard where you're raising like unbelievable amounts of money from all of your friends. And
Sure.
And I remember like when I got on the city council, like right before that, I had an opportunity with some of our common friends, and I thought, I'm not sure I'm worthy enough to be on that because you were a big part of that brand, and I think people see your involvement and your excitement, and what you bring, with.
As long as you have a big heart, Troy, and know why you're on that board. What I love the Casa, I have raised over $1 million. I raised Casa, but I know where every dime goes. Mm-hmm. When you deal with Casa Youth Shelter, it's a shame you got other places that you donate to. You don't know where that money goes to. It goes to somebody's pocket. Casa Youth Shelter, it don't happen that way. It goes to all of our kids.
Right.
We've saved so many lives. And saving these kids' lives is unreal. You know, we've had over 18,000 kids go through this little shelter we got. We've counseled over 50,000 family members. We got an 85% of our kids going back to a safe shelter.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Kenny, and I was honored. I just came back on the board, but I did 12 years, and like I said, you are an inspiration to so many people in the community, and you know it's just I think a lot of people too see where your heart is and how genuine you are, and people just want to be a part of it. And the good news is, like I said, it takes homeless youth off the street and provides a great service.
Oh, it sure does. I mean, we've saved a lot of lives. A lot of lives, and the kids finally been able. We have some kids coming back to us. Now they got families, they got their own kids that we saved their lives. So that's what's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, Kenny, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you doing this, and I always look forward to spending time with you. You're a dear friend. I love you, and I just appreciate everything you do.
Well, I love you too, buddy, and we come a long way, and we're going a lot farther. That's the main thing. That's what I want to do for these kids, and that's what I want to do in my life. Like I say, I'm 84, and I figured I got 20 years left. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. Everybody laughs when I tell them I got 20 left. But I'm going to tell you, I just enjoy life. I enjoy being nice to people, and I enjoy real people. And once this world realizes we need real people again with respect, and respect each other. I don't care what business you're in, you're going to be successful. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be successful. That's my opinion.
That's awesome. Well, again, and we want to also thank the American Legion Post 716 for having us in here today. And Kenny, I think it's time to have some drinks.
I think it is too.
Okay,
I think we're in the right place. 716 is a great post.
Yeah.
To be in, I'll tell you.
And as a veteran, it's just so great to see so many veterans coming in here and really commiserating in that brotherhood and sisterhood that's here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. Well, Kenny, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I just hope that people listen to what I have to say, because they will be rewarded if they do this. I know I was very well rewarded. And when I grew up with a very poor family and everything. I had to work hard. I got very successful. I'm doing very great myself today, but you got to put in the work or it's not going to happen. You can't just sit there and tell people how lucky they are when you could be just as lucky if you put in the work also.
There you go. Well, Kenny, you take care, my friend. Have a great day.
Okay,
Thanks.
but you too. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again for joining me today on the Ameritocracy Show. Be sure to follow me on social media and our website at troyedgar.com, where you can get more information and sign up for my weekly email. I hope you have a great week.